Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Marty, alongside Dave,
Hello.
John,
Hello.
and Aaron.
Hey.
I'm back. I made my triumphant return, or I hope it's triumphant return. Thank you for filling in last week, or the last episode, shall I say. I was struck down with the dreaded COVID-19. Feeling sorry for myself for a number of different reasons that week. But John, you stepped in, you did an okay of a job, so we probably will have you back at some point.
Okay.
Thanks for the glowing recommendation, man.
Yeah, you did fine. I did lie in my bed feeling sorry for myself watching the YouTube video, the YouTube.
I'd sooner you didn't lie in your bed watching me, if I'm honest.
Well, I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't go anywhere else. I was literally just bedbound and just yeah. But so what does that say about me compared to the Queen, who's still doing light duties? And
I know you couldn't even come on a video call. She's still doing that at least.
Exactly. So I was obviously a wimp. But yes, thank you very much. But I'm back, so I will take my seat back at the head of the table. So, guys,
Surprised your ego fitted through the door tonight.
He also compared himself to the Queen there.
He did, yeah.
Oh yeah,
This is going well already.
Guys, how are we doing? Dave, come to you first. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, after the week, it's been a pretty good one. Busy at work, but great result from the Giants. So
I was just about to say, I could pretend when I'm going around doing a round table here of asking how everyone is, I can pretend that I didn't see you last night, if that helps, because we were all together last night for the Giants game, which we will get into in a few minutes. But John, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to remember. Is this the first podcast we've done since the Scotland trip?
yes.
Yeah. So the last time we discussed it, and this time we've been and done it. Well, two of us have.
Yeah.
One was never coming, and Marty, you
Been and done what? And what was coming?
Hey,
careful.
Careful.
So
you did make me
we-
breakfast every morning. To be fair,
Well,
treats me well.
I made you breakfast. I made bacon rolls every morning for 3 mornings. And then, to be fair, I did drive you around Scotland for 4 days as well.
While I got pissed.
You were,
Yep.
let's be fair, Dave. You were always going to be spoilt no matter what, even if I was
That's
there.
true.
Yeah.
You were the only one who was going to be there for a full weekend of drinking.
Yeah.
Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I actually wanted to hear more about the Scottish trip.
Well, Dave doesn't remember any of it, supposedly.
Yeah.
Dave
I started
remembers
drinking on
leaving
the boat.
home and getting back home. Yeah.
Dave left and I woke up in the Stena line.
No,
Very
trip was good. Dave got his first experience of Dundee. I
Yes.
think I don't know, Dave. I don't know if you were expecting another Kirkcaldy ice arena, or if it met
thing
or
that I think-
exceeded expectations.
Like Dundee was good. It was good crack. The thing that let Dundee down is that it's in that middle ground where it doesn't have that old school nostalgia, that like Kirkcaldy has. But Dundee, they're trying to make it nicer. They might as well not have bothered.
No offense to any Dundee fans listening. Jeez, that's harsh.
No.
No,
the
even
pints were- the pints were cheap.
even Dundee fans know, like they know how long it takes them to get some chips on any given night from their one concession stand. At least getting beer is slightly
Not too
easier
bad.
from their one bar and 2 people serving beer.
I have to say the
Wasn't-
beer, the Scottish drink prices are damn sight better than the ones in the Odyssey. They apologised to me in Fife because the beer was $3.50. Seriously, she went, I'm sorry, we had
we've
to
just
increase
put
our prices.
up.
Yes,
We've
exactly
just put
what
prices
she
up
was
because of COVID.
Wow.
$3.50 for a pint. And it was Coors. It wasn't even like I had to drink tenants or anything.
Remember that
No,
one
wasn't
time I
it?
tried to drink Tenants, Dave? So before we were going to the hockey one day, we were in the Tav, which is the local pub to my village, and thought, right, I better have something for the rugby that was on. So right, what 0% are in here? So there was a choice of, I think it was San Miguel 0 or Tenant 0. Opened a bottle of the Tenant 0, and honestly, it was the most foul, disgusting thing I've ever smelt or tasted. So bad that the bar staff exchanged it for free because when they tried it, it was stinking.
awful.
Just tasted like a bad pint, like a off pint. This is rotten sauce.
Tasting like a pint of
then it's
Heineken in the
tennis.
SSE.
When anybody
Here,
talks about
wasn't that the weekend that like Scotland, like all the Scottish teams played out of their skin?
Well,
Like,
Well, I mean, Scottish rugby got beat just by Wales at the last minute.
we
But
did beat Dundee, what, 6-0?
7-0. So there was a. Let me try and remember this, because after we finished driving, I did get drunk afterwards. So I'm gonna say it was an overtime win, then an absolute drubbing of Dundee the second night, and then in Fife it was a shootout win.
It was an overtime loss in Dundee.
Overtime loss. That's right. You'd think we'd have this prepared and actually like have it up in front of us, but no, we don't. This is just the professional quality of podcast that you come to Door 14.
exactly.
Give the announcer some stick in Dundee as well. Good fun.
He was loving it.
not allowed to give an announcer stick.
You know, give a ref stick.
Yeah, we'll get into that story too. We do have quite a few stories, and that will be one of our main stories in period one, which we will talk about. So what I want to do is you guys just get stuck into rundown of our league standings to get moved on to period one, to get talking about all of that, and also last night's game and the Challenge Cup moving forward, which I'm excited about talking about too. So that'll be in our period one as well. So let's get stuck into rundown of the league as it currently stands. Starting in the Elite Ice Hockey League, I should say the Premier Sport Elite Ice Hockey League here in the UK. Sitting top of the league in first place is the Sheffield Steelers with 35 games played and 58 points, followed by the Belfast Giants in second with 36 games played and 56 points. Cardiff are in third with 39 games played and 55 points. Nottingham in fourth with 36 games played and 38 points. Guildford are in fifth with 35 games played and 32 points. Coventry in sixth with 31 games played and 30 points. Glasgow are in seventh with 33 games played and 30 points. Dundee in 8th with 33 games played and 29 points, and Manchester and Fife are in 9th and 10th. Manchester with 38 games played, 27 points, and Fife with 34 games with 20 points. Usual, I suppose, same battle going on at the top. The three top teams, Sheffield, Belfast, and Cardiff, holding those spots. Sheffield and the Giants within 2 points of each other, and Cardiff, they're in third place with 55 points, so 3 points off top spot. But they have played, obviously, we talked about this before, but they've played about 2 to 3 games more than Belfast and Sheffield. Come to Dave. We'll come to you first. We'll look at the top of the table. We'll get your thoughts on top. I mean, we've had it was a busy weekend last weekend. We've had as you guys have mentioned, we had we had the Scottish triple header weekend, but we also had the game on that month, the Wednesday beforehand, or the Wednesday beforehand. So we had, what was it, something like 4 games in the space of 5 days. Yeah, quite a heavy going for Belfast Giants, but they came out and pulled out standing points to bring them level. And then a couple of days later, we had Sheffield and Cardiff both being levelled by various teams to help us, like I suppose the Belfast Giants. I suppose get to that closer point to the top. What's your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, it's definitely turning into a closer race than it probably could have been had the results went the other way. I'm really looking forward to this home stretch as we get, well, we're not really just over halfway now, so as we move into the next phase of the league, obviously we've still got a lot of games against Sheffield, and Sheffield have a lot of games against us, and Cardiff still to go. So it's all still up in the air. We'll see how it goes as we run down the straight. One thing I would say is Besco taking that tumble in the Scottish weekend has put a lot of things in perspective. Now I know that we have Whistle there, who's done a phenomenal job. Definitely a starter in this league without a doubt, based on how he's played over the last wee while. But if we hadn't have had him, it would have been a different story. And it's hopefully that's him on the mend, because again it's having those options makes a massive difference to your fortunes. If you don't have that that quality netminding in this league, you'll suffer, especially when you consider the likes of Cardiff and Sheffield running to import netminders.
Yep, I was just about to ask that question when you said that. Actually, I was going to say, do you think it's helping, I suppose, in the long run for Sheffield, the fact that they have to two netminders who are both starting netminders, running hand in hand there in tandem. I mean, they must be helping Sheffield.
Oh, it must be a godsend. Now, it has to say that the Giants have that also, and I've really used Jackson this season, and I think we're only going to see more of that if we get him signed up for a multi-year deal, and if we sign up Besco for a multi-year deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him pushing for a proper starter position in Belfast, and he deserves it after the last few games.
John,
you talk about Shev. Just one thing you talk about Sheffield being able to run the two imports, and that must be helping them. Not last night.
No, and we will come to that. Don't preempt it, please. Thank you.
Well, don't set me up by talking about their netminders.
Well,
then
I was about to ask a question, but as usual, you just jumped in with what you wanted to say anyway. John, my question was going to be just around still sticking with Sheffield and the Belfast Giants. They are sitting 1 and 2, quite close, tight race there at the top. Dave's already alluded to it a bit, and he kind of mentioned it already. I mean, we have quite a few games still to come, especially 2 double-header weekends, one in Sheffield and one in Belfast. How do you feel that's going to be as a decider for the league?
I mean, you look at the 3 teams. There is 3 teams in contention for the league champion at this point. It's Sheffield, Belfast, and if those 2 teams have a run of bad results, you've got Cardiff waiting in the wings, waiting to pick up the pieces and potentially pick up silverware. But those 2 doubleheader weekends against Sheffield versus Belfast, they are championship deciding weekends. And for both teams, they are weekends you need to come out with 4 points. Any less than 4 points is a potential disaster, and it's a potential lost championship. Make absolutely no bones about it, especially for Belfast being the one game extra played. And I talk about it every podcast that I would sooner have points on the board than games played. Sheffield might have that extra game, but they also have points on the board above us. So we have to bear that in mind. But any less than 4 points per those doubleheader weekends, then we are in diff. And Dave talked about it there as well. The netminding situation, certainly when we were in Fife, when Besco took that tumble, was it Dundee? It was Dundee, sorry. The second game of the weekend where he took the tumble. Not a lot of folk really saw it kind of happen at the time. It was both on and off the play. The puck had been played into the Giants' end. Besco was skating out to play the puck up. Dundee had a bit of a terrible line change on it, and unfortunately Besco took the tumble, which took him out of the game, and has taken him out of the last few games, only returning to the bench last night for the Challenge Cup game. With Sheffield, you don't know whether you're going to hit hot or cold with them. Like, I know we've said about them running the 2 imports. Both of their imports have had terrible games. Both of their imports have had fantastic games. Jackson coming in and looking like, at least for the next week or so, is our out-and-out starter. He has pulled off a couple of brilliant results since he's stepped up into that number 1 role. I say number 1 as in number 1 starting netminder, not the fact that he wears number 1. But take nothing away, we've got 3 excellent netminders. We also have Andrew Dixon, who got ice time last weekend, and absolutely played a blinder for the 7 or 8 minutes that he was on the ice. Let nothing through, was a brick wall, and I would rely on him any day if it came to it and we needed a result. But yeah, I ramble on, but yes, must win games.
Definitely. And then in terms of just to round off, the fixtures the standings as they are before we move on to across the pond. Aaron, just kind of get your thoughts. I was just looking at the bottom half of the table. Well, let's take Fife out of it. Fife, but we're looking at we're talking about Guildford, Blaze, Clan, Stars, and Storm. I mean, they're obviously what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to end your season in a place where you're going to be in a playoff spot for a playoff. For a run at the playoffs. I mean, it looks quite close there at the bottom as well, all within a couple of points of each other.
Yeah, and since we spoke last time we spoke, I think Dundee were in 9th. And since the last time we spoke, they've switched places with Manchester. So there's an interesting fight at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom there. Dundee, our Dundee trying to change their standings and trying to get back up there? What do you reckon?
Well, there's roster changes. There's roster changes there. They've split from one D man and brought in another one. And then I think elsewhere is it either Coventry or Guildford maybe have brought in a new netminder just today.
Yeah. Guildford, yeah.
So that middle of the table is not resting on its laurels either. You're 100% right. Dundee are making changes to hit playoffs. That's what Omar Pasha has his eyes on. But those middle teams, those Guildfords and those Coventry were in a position just a few weeks ago where people were wondering, are they going to make playoffs? Yeah. Those places aren't secure. Anyone can drop down, and again, we say it, we're sorry, Fife. 10th place is now locked in. Let's be perfectly honest. Everyone is playing not to be in 9th. That's what's happening from 4th place down. Actually, 100%. fifth place down. Nottingham are probably locked in for 4th place now at this point too.
Right, we're going to leave it at that and switch across the pond and switch our attention to the NHL, starting with the Eastern Conference and the Metropolitan Division. As usual, we'll look at the wildcard spots rather than the full rundown of league or divisions or conferences. So we'll look at the wildcard spots. In the Metropolitan Division then, Carolina still sit top with 50 games played and 74 points. Pittsburgh are in second with 52 games played and 70 points. And New York in third with 50 games played and 69 points. In the Atlantic Division then, Florida still sit top with 51 games played, 75 points. Tampa in second with 50 games played and 72 points. And Toronto in third with 50 games played and 68 points. The wildcard spots currently held by Washington and Boston. Switching our attention then over to the western side of the country in the Central Division, Colorado sit top with 51 games played, 78 points. St. Louis are in second with 50 games played and 66 points. And Minnesota in third with 48 games played and 65 points. Pacific Division then, Calgary in first with 49 games played and 66 points. Vegas have moved down into second with 51 games played and 62 points, and LA in third with 51 games played and 61 points. Wildcard spots then held by Nashville and Edmonton. Not a lot of change since the last recording. The kind of the, especially in the Metropolitan, Atlantic and the Central Division, kind of not too much change when we look at it from that point of view. Pacific Division, obviously, there's a slight change with Calgary and Vegas switching places, but I mean, guys, John, we'll come to you first. I mean, obviously, Nashville fan, sitting wild card spot, still in contention there. I mean, it's looking good at the moment.
We're in contention, but we've dropped. We were sitting second over in Central at one point, and there has been a run of losses, especially on the road. This team doesn't seem to have road form. Thankfully, we're now starting a bit of a homestand, which includes a bit of a special game, or two special games actually this weekend as well. So hopefully those are wins, and that can get us back on track to get into those locked-in spots. I don't like relying on the wild card because your first round tends to be an absolute disaster. If you're in through the wild card, you're up against one of the top teams. If you're taking a wild card spot, and it's not a position you want to be in right now. I specifically don't want to be playing the likes of Carolina right now, or amazingly Florida. I don't want to be playing Florida. I never thought I'd say it. I thought any day and twice on Sunday I would say I'll take a game against Florida. Here we are this year.
Yeah, no, you're right. And as you say, you don't like to have to rely on it, but at this point, it looks like it's one of the options at the moment because obviously, and I mean this no offense, but the three teams sitting there on top, and this is Clues Wild, they seem to really still having a good run of form there. Dave, mentioning the Wild, you must be still happy seeing them still.
Yeah. They haven't recovered their form pre All-Star game, but they haven't been bad either, to be fair. Still in the last 10, 6 wins, 4 losses. Not the end of the world. We'd like it to be higher, obviously. But yeah, so it's definitely good to see, and I think they'll hopefully find that form they had prior to the All-Star as we get closer to the playoffs. The later you can leave that, the better. If you can conserve a bit of energy at this stage, especially as it gets down to the line. Some of these games are huge, and obviously you want to win, but they're also energy sapping. So you don't want to, put all your eggs into getting through to the playoffs and then, stumble
You're gassed.
as you get through that first round, which is usually what happens to the Wild. I usually get sneak into the wild card spot and then I end up playing what used to be Chicago, but that's not obviously going to happen. So yeah, hopefully we find that form again. The team is completely different to the team that played last year. It feels completely different, plays different style of hockey, and it's been a joy to watch, to be fair. Obviously not taking in the loss against Ottawa last night, but we'll just ignore that.
From a Toronto point of view, obviously, three, sitting where we are, we've kind of stuck to that. We've kind of stuck our heels in and tried to stay where we have been for the kind of the run of this season. Really, we haven't really moved too much from that third place position. Obviously, this week, I don't know if you guys seen that Toronto decided to go, I think, on like a shopping spree in Arizona. In the space of 3 days, they done 2 different trades with Arizona for 2 defensemen and a backup netminder. And I was just like, it was just like, well, they were just like, okay, we'll help the Coyotes, we'll.
Is that because Arizona have too many players to fit in their new locker room next season?
That was what I was going to say. Why did you snap at me? Yeah, because they only they part exchanged 2 players, and then there was like a choice of either a third round pick in 2023 or second round pick in 2025. I'm going to guess they wait until 2025 so they know I've got.
I'm surprised they didn't ask for a few extra chairs out of Toronto just to bulk out their crowds for next season.
Exactly. And Aaron, we'll just move on from Philly.
Yeah. So I think it's a fight between us and New Jersey, not to come last at this point. But there is a story later on that's coming up that I think the Flyers have a trick up their sleeve coming up, and you never know, things might change.
They're looking to lose 20, and then you're definitely like nailed in for the Stanley Cup next season or something. Is this another of your weird things?
It's another one of my weird things. It's exactly it.
Well, that is
just before we go on. You looking forward to tonight's game? Wild Toronto
tonight. It is.
Should be an interesting one.
I think it's a 12 o'clock face-off as well. Isn't
it?
I
think it is. I don't think I'll be able to sit up for it, but I'll maybe try and catch the highlights in the morning.
Yeah, I'll not even pretend I'm going to stay up for it because I'm not. Unless I'm still editing the podcast at that time, which sometimes happens, but no, not tonight. We'll see tomorrow how we're talking. But hopefully it's a Toronto win, obviously.
Nah, don't be silly.
Guys, with that, what we'll do is we will round off our pre-game, I suppose, and get stuck into our period 1 of hockey. Okay, our period 1 is a roundup of news stories from the UK and any of the leagues around the UK, including the Premier Sport Elite Ice Hockey League as well as the NIHL as well. We also look at SNL or other areas of UK hockey whenever they do come up. But this week's stories are being dominated, I guess, by the Elite League, and 2 stories mainly. Let's start off. Do you know what? Let's start off, John, with last night's game and the Challenge Cup and moving forward with the Challenge Cup and what that's currently standing. Let's get stuck into that. As I mentioned at the start of the show, I pretended that we hadn't seen each other, but we did see each other last night for the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup, which took place between Belfast and Nottingham in the SSE Arena. The second game was obviously played between the Sheffield Steelers and the Cardiff Devils, and I believe that was in the Steelers Arena in Sheffield. The Giants won last night 2-1 against the Nottingham Panthers. It was a nail-biting game coming right down into the final period, we won't lie. And the Sheffield Steelers were thumped 5-0 by the Cardiff Devils, setting up the final for the Belfast Giants versus the Cardiff Devils, which will be, we now know, the 16th of March in the SSE Arena in Belfast. John, let's switch over to you. I know there was a couple of bits and pieces that kind of just before the Challenge Cup came up, there was a few changes announced to the Challenge Cup semi-final, and I know it's kind of outdated now, but it's worth mentioning because obviously they immediately changed the OT rules. Within probably, was it like 10 minutes of posting? I don't know.
Oh, nearly, yeah. So effectively, with a competition which was already in progress, they decided that they would just clarify what the game night situation would be if a game went through regulation and it was still tied. So the announcement came out that it would be 5 minutes, 3-on-3 overtime before progressing on to a shootout. Then they went through all the instructions for the sudden death shootout, the reverse order, and all the rest of it. Straight away, as is the current thing with the Elite League social media now, everyone got on their backs immediately and went, this is a one-time knockout game. Are you seriously only going to allow the teams 5 minutes of overtime to try and settle the game before you go to an anyone can win shootout? So the next morning, lo and behold, here was an announcement from the Elite League saying, the 4 teams involved have agreed that we're going to go to a 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime, to which everyone was much happier. Now, neither game needed it, as it turned out. Thankfully, in Belfast, like you say, nail-biting game, 2-1, had shades of the weekend just past where the Giants managed to level things at 2-2 with 0.4 of a second left on the clock to then go on and win that in the shootout. All of us, I think, had our nails bitten down to the quick, except for Aaron, because his son was so enthralled that he fell asleep on his lap.
You know how difficult it was not to jump up at the when we found out that we won, and everyone jumped up, and I was like, "Yay! I can't jump up because I can't throw my kid off."
So yeah, like we now know the final. We would assume that the same will go for the final. The same arrangements will go for the final. If the game is tied after 60, it'll be a 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime before we progress on to the shootout. So just today we had the announcement, the official announcement that Belfast will face Cardiff in the 2022 Challenge Cup final. As per the last 2 games just passed yesterday, this will be a league event. This is not a Belfast Giants hosted event. So it will be a league event. And what I will say is, and this is the one time I know I gave off previously about the semi-final, and that was more of a Giants organisation problem that I had with the season ticket and all the rest of it. This time, I'm actually quite happy because this is a trophy game. This is a championship game, and it's for a tenner.
And it would never have been in our ticket anyway.
No, it would absolutely never have been on our season ticket either way. So this is a final game. Midweek, admittedly, not great. Cardiff fans are having a real go on social media.
So
Free Paddy's Day game.
So I was just about to ask. So I was gonna. That was my next question. Was going to come up with. So John, you mentioned there obviously the date has been set, 16th of March for us in Northern Ireland. It's part of St Patrick's Day. St Patrick's Day is the 17th of March. We're on a bank holiday weekend. We're on a bank holiday that day. We're all off work. Well, majority of us are off work unless you're working for an organisation that doesn't.
If you're one of the unlucky few,
which we were talking about with Aaron earlier on, but we know he's off. But Dave, I'm going to come to you for this question because we've been there. We've done we've done Challenge Cups on St Patrick's Day before. This is not a new thing for us. And the Challenge Cup on St Patrick's Day before for us, yes, that was a Saturday night. I agree that it was Saturday night. It wasn't midweek, but if you're an away fan from Cardiff coming over to Belfast, I mean, what would you say to them in terms of you are coming over on a Wednesday?
Take a couple of days off. Make a weekend of it, enjoy it. If and now the Giants are going to win, so it's going to be shite for you. But but come over to Belfast, great fun. Come over and enjoy it. Now all the rules are starting to relax. The bars are open, restaurants are open. Come over, lovely places. It's a lovely place with nice people.
Can I throw in the ones who are giving off about this being a Wednesday game in Belfast and all the rest of it? Crimea River, yous were seeded 4th out of the 4 teams. We're seeded 1st. Per the regulation, we get the choice to host it at home. We're hosting it here. I don't care that it's great for us. Crimea River, come over. We've all done the home away finals before. We've all done those. Tough. Come over, have a pint and chill out.
Aaron, obviously you were at the game last night. We were talking, obviously your son Theo was with us last night. He seemed to really enjoy the game last night, getting really into the dancing and stuff. And
there was a while there it was getting really difficult to bring him to the games because it was just far too overwhelming. I remember one of the last games I had to leave because he was just so upset. But last night he got wild into it. He
was giving it stacks for the power play as well. Absolutely giving it stacks.
Yeah.
Dancing. So I think all the dancing tired him out, and as you said, in the last 10 minutes or so, he just faded off. So he did.
Do you know what? He wasn't the only one. There was plenty of people in that arena couldn't hack it in the final period.
Guys, my last question really is obviously we talked about obviously the Giants Panthers game which we attended last night. My last question, John, I'll direct it towards you in terms of obviously we're looking at the other game that was on last night, Steelers and Devils. Devils winning 5-0 against the Sheffield Steelers. Did you ever imagine the Steelers would have difficulty with semis in their arena?
Well,
difficult with semis in their arena.
If social media is to believe, we believed. No, you would not imagine that they would be struggling with semis in that arena.
I don't know if we should really be putting context into this, but I'm sure most people.
No, let's just move on.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. And a more serious question, though, Dave. Obviously, we're talking about we are talking about obviously the Sheffield Cardiff game. I mean, we weren't imagining seeing a 5-0 victory for Cardiff Devils last night, and we did see fans from the Sheffield Steelers. I don't know how genuine some of those comments were, but. I mean, you said it yourself coming out of the arena last night. Whenever we were seeing some of those responses on Twitter. I mean, was it, are the Sheffield Steelers? Should the fans be saying what they're saying?
No, they've no. Their big issue, I think, and I have a feeling that it's probably right, is they haven't really had a massive challenge, coming up the straight in the league. They only started playing Cardiff. I think a couple of weeks ago. They've barely played us. I think we played us once. So it's going to be interesting going in the rest of the straight. And can they hack the pressure? Or whenever they come up against a team that is as good as them, can they win on multiple nights? Can they make a big difference? Because really, they were playing Cardiff that weekend, and it was a close game, and then the Cardiff came straight back and was able to answer everything that was thrown at them, and that obviously put that 5-0 drubbing against them. So,
I think that's also the second shutout that Carruth has had against Sheffield this season.
It is, yeah.
Carruth's some netminder. Like you can't. We've seen that. When he's on fire, he's brilliant. When he's not, he's awful.
Done.
But but it's hopefully the bad form for Cardiff is over now, and they can beat Sheffield a few more times.
But also, let's hope that it doesn't come that Cardiff doesn't come against us in the Giants in the final. But hopefully the Giants will have them.
I'm sorry, but you can understand their frustration, though. Yeah, like there's a difference between playing well with the other teams that are in the league and then going to a 5-0 shutout. Yeah. Like that's a little bit of a whiplash right there.
Honestly. I'm a Belfast Giants fan. I hope the sky's falling in for them. I hope they leave this season with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You have no empathy this episode at all. You're just like, why are you naked, lads?
Absolutely. None at all. No sympathy.
We'll finish off this part of about Challenge Cup. We'll just finish off with just saying that obviously, as we mentioned, tickets will go on sale this coming Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Yep, Monday the 20th of February. Tickets are going to go on sale at 12 p.m. I'm going to imagine, I don't know if maybe there'll be pre-sale for season ticket holders. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, there is. I think the season ticket seats are being held for a week.
Okay.
So if you've got a season ticket, you can jump on, grab your seat, and after that week, they'll then be thrown out to general sale.
Tickets will cost £10. Apart from obviously, don't forget about the adding on the booking fee, so it'll be like $12.50 altogether. And the game will be also broadcast live on Premier Sports for anybody who cannot attend the game for whatever reason.
Listen, if you're a Belfast fan, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a tenner. It's a tenner for a championship game. Get down. Don't watch the webcast. Like, I like the Giants webcast. It's the best one out there in the league. But get down to the arena. I know it's Wednesday. I know it's an awful middle of the week night for a game, and we sometimes get really bad crowds. But look, it's a public holiday the next day. Get down.
Exactly.
Here, the crowd last night was pumping.
Great crowd last night for a Wednesday night. Great crowd last night. Really good. Really, I thought it was a great crowd for a Wednesday night game.
Boomerang on top form as well, especially for a Wednesday night.
Yeah, fair play to them, definitely. I have to find out what that song was that they created last night. Heard for the first time. I need to find out what those words are.
That's not true. That's not true. You heard it at the weekend. You just don't remember hearing it.
Okay.
Because I remember trying to unpick it in the pub afterwards. We definitely heard it.
I don't remember, but okay, I'll take your word for it. Guys, we're going to move on to our other story in this period, and that's obviously a story that broke not last weekend, the weekend before. So the weekend you guys were in Scotland. This is from that weekend. This is actually from the weekend of the what they call Game 86 or whatever. So I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, this was an incident that involved an off-ice staff member in the Elite League. And this happened on the 13th of February. So if you don't know, where have you been? You've probably been sitting on a rock somewhere. But the Coventry Blaze were fined for conduct of an off-ice staff member during the game on Sunday the 13th of February. The actions during the Sunday's game brought the game into disrepute. It can only be way described. And the all bodies in the UK, so that was Ice Hockey UK, the English Ice Hockey Association, Scottish Ice Hockey Association, or Scottish Ice Hockey, and the Elite League, all put out a joint statement last week, which condemned the what happened. I suppose that on that weekend, they made it clear that at any time, there can be no abuse of any officials from players or staff, and this will not be tolerated. They went on to say, in recent months, there have been cases of abuse at all levels of the game, and it's totally unacceptable. Whether it be in a rink or online via social media, any cases of abuse will be taken very seriously. Individual clubs have the power to ban offenders from the rink, and cases can be reported to the police. Our officials, players and staff are the lifeblood of our sport, and governing bodies and leagues in the UK are united in stamping out all forms of abuse. Now, if you don't know where this story came from, we're not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty of it, but it's worth us having a bit of a chat about it, because we did have some comment. I think we all had a good agreement on what we thought about this, and kind of like, how we kind of felt that it was being handled. This was obviously coming from an event that happened at the Blaze game, where the nighttime, the in arena announcer decided, a number of different things happened during that game. A couple of questionable calls, supposes somewhat people are arguing, from referee Stefan Hogarth, who was the ref for that night, who was leading the game. He ejected then the Coventry announcer John Dalzell from the press box early into the into the third part of the game. Dalzell appeared to have mocked the officials by donning a ref's jersey and asking anyone if they had a spur whistle, which obviously caused a bit of contention among the refs, who felt that it wasn't appropriate for John to be doing what he was doing. We'll get your thoughts on this in a minute, guys. But this led to, obviously, Hogarth instructing the announcer to leave and awarding a misconduct. It did spill over, and this is kind of where maybe it kind of got a bit out of hand, and we'll talk about bits and pieces about this too. It spilled over into social media realms, as we can imagine it and as we expected it to. Both sides of the both sides, I suppose, didn't come out at either of this. Neither of them came out looking, neither of them came out of this looking rosy at all in any way. Both of them just came across quite childish in some ways in terms of the comments that were being made. Now, you can say what you want, you can have your own opinion of what you felt was right and what was wrong, but both of these guys just looked foolish when it came to it, to the point where Stefan Hogarth has came off, I believe, social media and Twitter altogether because of everything that's been going on. But I'm going to get your thoughts on it. John, I'm going to come to you first, and I'm going to get your thoughts on the actual, game and what transpired at the game and the resulting of the game, and obviously the fine that has been placed on the Blaze because of the incident. I mean, a staff member in inverted commas, but a member that's paid by the Coventry Blaze to officiate on the night. I mean, be a night announcer at the rink. I mean, what's your take on it in terms of the staff? I guess the incident itself. Let's go with that.
Listen, we've discussed this to death in our group chat. We've also been in person a couple of times, and we've chatted about this one since it happened. What the game night official, what John Dalziel did, was over the line. A match night official or a match night announcer's job is to, yes, get the crowd involved in the game, but it's not to get involved in the game. He has absolutely no right to get involved in the game. The only people who have the right to get involved in the game are the players on the ice and the officials on the ice. It's not his place to try and rile it up. Yes, it's his place to make sure that the crowd are in. Now, he made a comment at one point that the crowd went wild whenever he did what he did. If you're having to do that to get the crowd to go wild, there's either a problem with the product on ice, or there's a problem with what you're putting out as the match night announcer and DJ. Let's point out as well that he's also the DJ. And I made the point to you guys that we get every other arena gets plenty of atmosphere, unless it's Nottingham or Sheffield, because it's all just adverts as far as I can tell. But not once has Deputy Dave or Todd Kelman or anyone else who's been the announcer at match night in Belfast has ever passed comment about what is happening on the ice. They might play a bit of music that maybe has something to do with what's going on. They might play a kind of fight song after a fight. That's fine. They might play, I don't know, a daft, silly piece of music after somebody's fallen or whatever. That's fine. What you don't do is get on the mic and start having a go at anyone. Now, I think some people have maybe tried to jump to his defence on this because specifically it's a referee that's involved here. If he had made that comment about, let's say Coventry were getting pumped and it was 7 or 8-0, is he going to jump on there and have a go at the players on the bench? Is he going to get on there and have a go at the coach on the bench? No, of course he's not. If it's the other way around though, is he then going to jump on the back of the visiting team? Because if he's going to do that, that's completely unprofessional and he's in the wrong job. Yeah. And Coventry need to think very seriously about whether this is the right guy that should be doing that. Now, I know we had discussions back and forward. Marty, you especially. I think you saw where he was coming from originally. And I think maybe, I don't know, I think through discussion, I think I've maybe brought you slightly closer to a middle ground.
I don't know.
Like
what do you mean, sorry?
Well, when we were chatting initially, were you not on the side of you thought that maybe everyone was being a bit too thin-skinned about this?
My take on it is that neither person, as I mentioned already before asking you the question I asked you, was that I genuinely feel that neither person came out as looking in any way shiny in any way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both were at blame. I think, and this is kind of the question. This is more around the social media bit afterwards. The game itself, the whole thing around, obviously what happened within the game itself. It is what it is. My thing was more around the social media aspect, and that was my next question and it's going to go towards Dave though. But my thing is with the social media, and Dave, I want to get your thoughts on it in terms of what John's kind of saying in terms of what my initial thought was. I had said was that both Stefan Hogarth just looked like he had thrown his dummy out of the pram a bit in some ways. I felt it turned into this real drama that came out of nowhere. He said things on social media that he shouldn't have said either. Let's be 100%. But neither man, and John as well, John Dalzell, not John, our John, John Dalzell didn't apologise. There was no apology.
I said plenty of things on Twitter that I should apologise for too, to be fair.
John Dalzell, there was no apology and there was no acknowledgement of the fact that what he did was taken out of hand, and the things that he said as well on social media were also out of hand too. So again, no one looks clean.
Yeah,
John. I mean, Dave. Sorry. Yeah, social media. I mean, we're talking about comments that were made about a whole, and we talked about this last night in last night's game. I mean, we have a referee who made derogatory comments towards a full city of fans, and is he going to be able to be, is he able to go and officiate in Coventry again? This is the question.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. One thing I would like to say is, whatever happened to the Elite League social media ban? Everybody was meant to be banned from social media for 24 hours after a game.
So was it as long as 24 hours?
Players? I
thought
it was 20. But I thought it applied to the refs as well.
Well,
anyway,
to be fair though, the first of the comments and the unwashed comment and stuff that all came out over 24 hours after, because it came out on the 15th of February.
No, let's be perfectly honest. The first social media postings that came out about it were directly from the Coventry Blaze. During the game. They put out social media posts in support of John Dalziel, showing that he was now part of the match night support crew. He went and picked up pucks. They took photos of him in the stands, sitting with Scorch, their mascot, and put that on social media, saying we stand with John Dalziel, and showed pictures of him on the ice picking up pucks after their chuck-a-puck, and basically made a big thing of putting him on social media. So Dave's 100% right. The social media ban's there. Coventry were the initial inflammatory people on social media about this as an organisation, and that probably links into why obviously it links into why the team has been brought in through the head of hockey ops statement that was made.
The thing that really sort of grated on me a bit is that if you were to look at this sort of from another industry perspective, like if it was your job and this was happening, it was two employees fell out and it went on to social media, like there would probably have been a bit more civil, pulled together, come on in, we'll talk about this and we'll sort of act like adults, rather than just slinging mud from across the room. And I said about it is that really both the people, when they look back at this, I hope they feel a little bit embarrassed, and they take it for what it is. I do think that anybody who's affiliated with the team, and especially in an official capacity, like of John and then obviously Hogarth with the league, need to conduct themselves in a way that's representative of their job as such. If I'm representing my company at all, so obviously they're talking about stuff that happened during a game. If I started making comments about, say if I had to go travel to a certain place and do a bit of work, and then I made a comment about similar to what Hogarth said, you probably wouldn't be working there anymore. It's and just because it's sport, yes, okay, emotions run high. You can, say, okay, on the day, a bad thing, blah blah. But take a step back, think before you tweet and all that. I do agree 100% that on the night the announcer was in the wrong, and if that had been it, then Hogarth could have just went to the league. The same sanctions could have been put in, and Hogarth would have came out smelling of roses. But it was the knee jerk that I've been offended and I need to make a statement. Yes, okay, he might have been forgetting that it's a public platform. It's like jumping up with a bullhorn and shouting it from the rooftops when you stick it on Twitter. But that's just something that he's had to learn the hard way. And hopefully the rest. This is one thing I have to say is after our trip to Scotland, Hogarth is by no means the worst referee we have. Like, he is absolutely phenomenal compared to some of the stuff I've seen over that weekend.
Fair, he knows the rule book at least, doesn't he?
Yeah. And yes, okay, they make mistakes, but all refs make mistakes. And in this case, there's no reason for an official member of a team. It would be like Deputy Dave doing this, and you'd be going, "What on earth are you doing?" It would be, yes, okay, on the night you might have a bit of a laugh about it, but then when you look back at it, hindsight, adult eyes, you're going, "Oh dear God, that's cringe."
Do you think it's difficult for them to take a step back? As a fan and as that official, like last night there was a couple of calls and the audience, give it stacks and give it the boos and all that kind of stuff aimed at the refs. But that's from an audience. That's from the.
It's a bit of panto.
That's a bit of panto. Great, thank you. But as an official, as an announcer, you're still a fan. But is it difficult to tear yourself away like that?
See, even at that, in every other respect, in any other team, absolutely. When it comes to what the Coventry announcer has done, what John Dalziel has done, absolutely not, because he made a massive point on social media saying that he's done it for 20 years. If he's done it for 20 years, he should know better. It doesn't. If you're a fan of hockey, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you've been doing that job for that length of time, that's fine. You should know better. You don't need to be told that sort of stuff.
I suppose I get where Aaron's coming from in some ways, in that he's right. I mean, yes, okay. There's the argument that John had kind of riled up the crowd in some ways, because he said he riled up the crowd, but in some ways he riled up the crowd and kind of were directing the crowd's hatred, I suppose, towards Hogarth. But again,
it's not his job and it's not his place.
But again, how's that any different from the fact that there was 5,000 people last night or whatever it was, given that they're all towards him?
Because the fans are there to do that, and that's an accepted thing that fans do. In any sport, you get on the back of the officials when a decision goes against you. What a team official and what a match night official doesn't do is get on and incite that. No. That's a different situation entirely, and it's completely wrong. And let's be perfectly honest, that sort of stuff puts people off going into officiating.
Yeah.
Like you know going into it from the very start, whether these guys are players who've never made it as players, but they go into being officials, we don't get a game unless we've got 4 guys in stripes on the ice.
Yep.
That's the bottom out reality of this game now, is we don't get a game without the refs.
Yep.
So if you're making decisions on a game night to get a crowd and get people inciting hatred and getting on the back of the officials in a very inappropriate manner, anyone in that arena who's sitting there thinking, I might get into officiating, is going, absolutely not, I don't need this in my life. This is 2.5 hours of a weekend night Actually, I'll be quite happy staying up in the stands and having a beer instead. I'm not going out there to take that.
Do you know what?
It so is tough for them though, because like you make the call and it's against the other team, right? That's a boo. And if you miss if you make the call, you'll get a boo. If you miss a call, which happened last night, then you get a boo. You don't really get a.
Don't get me wrong.
Well done.
Don't get me wrong either. What I'm saying is that on any given game night, you can't please everyone, and that's an official's job. An official's job isn't to please everyone; it's to police the game and apply the rules as they apply to the game. They're going to miss calls. They're going to make calls that not everyone agrees with. That's fine, but. And I'm not saying in any way at all, I'm not excusing what was done after the game at all, because it was completely wrong. But what happened during the game was also wrong. And neither man, like you've said, has come out with this looking great, because the actions on game night were awful from one side, the actions after the game from the other side were terrible. The actions of the league afterwards still raise questions as far as I'm concerned as well. And I know, Marty, you'll probably talk about it just now to move things on.
I'll just mention it quickly, and then I'll give it over to Dave for last comment, because I think he has something to say too. My last comment on it is just the fact that, like, I feel that the league addressed one side of the issue in terms of the abuse of the refs, and I will 100% agree with you guys and with John, kind of what you were saying and what everybody's kind of been saying on social media. There is no game without the referees. If the questionable referees are not, how good they are at their job doesn't matter. We're not, we can't, we are not here to kind of decide who's good and who's not. But we can have a game without referees. But the league should have done something to at least acknowledge the fact that one of their referees, someone that they hire, someone who represents their league, also made derogatory comments towards a fan base. And that wasn't addressed. And I think it should have been addressed. And that's my personal opinion. Dave,
the league will tell you that they have.
Dave, I'm going to pass to you. You can have the last comment before you move on.
Just a random one. So we were saying about how motions run high during the game, and that's maybe why he did it. Why did he have a ref jersey?
He always has one. Supposedly, he just says he has one beside him.
Yeah, I guarantee this isn't the first time he's done this. This is just the first time he's been caught doing it.
Or it's the first time that one of the refs took offence to it.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, and it's, to me, is like, I would have said, if you had just said something, has anybody got a whistle? Do you need my help? Over the tannoy or something? Oh yeah, but it's the going and getting changed and getting your ref jersey on and then doing it. That's like thinking about it and how can I get a rise out of these people?
Oh wow.
It's just one thing. I just thought, it's like, why on earth did he have a ref jersey sitting there?
I know. Well, that's it. I'm going to leave it at that, guys, because we could talk about this for hours. Let's be honest. So what we will do is we'll leave it there. Hopefully that will be the end of it, but I imagine there'll be more rumbling on as the season comes towards an end, but we will see. Guys, I'm going to move us on to the end of our period one and move on to our penalty box segment for period one. So I will just round up and we'll move on to penalty box segment. Okay, our penalty box segment is just a part of the podcast where we talk about any notable hits or notable bans or DOPS investigations that are of note. These are supplementary disciplinary proceedings that took place under the NIHL, and I want to thank a couple, two different people for sending in our direction, because on the same night when these were announced, John, you'll agree, you've seen it as well.
Yep.
We had both two different. They came from two different sources. This is from the weekend, again, the same weekend as the Coventry game that we were talking about, that February 13th, that Valentine's weekend. The NIHL had a number of different supplementary disciplinary decisions that took place after those weekend's games. The disciplinary section committee had to consider a number of different incidents from that weekend. And they are quite serious when we look at the decisions that were made. Teams are obviously informed of the decisions that were made, and let's take a quick look at them. John, you can keep me right on this, but I'll just read through them. You can keep me right. But following the instance of the above game the game between Nottingham Lions and the Blackburn Hawks in the NIHL North 1 on February 13th, 2022, the Blackburn Hawks received bans, shall we say, or suspensions, well, as you will. Number 1 was 33 Reece Carney, fighting an unwilling opponent, will not be eligible to sign for the NIHL club until the 1st of July 2024, and the player is suspended until 30th of June 2022. Number 19, Callan Ruddock, fighting an unwilling opponent. The player is suspended until the 30th of June 2022 and is not eligible to sign for an NIHL club until the 1st of July 2024. And lastly, in this one, and this is the one I was just like, wow, we had a Craig Lutkovich, I think that's how you say his surname, hopefully it is. 5 for fighting, 5 plus GM resisting an official. This is this is a penalty well, it's called on the night. Player suspended for 2 games, so that wasn't as much as the first 2. But the biggest one was the coach Oliver Lemieux. Failure to control his bench has resulted in a suspension from all ice hockey involvement until the 30th of June 2024. 2 years suspension for failing to control his bench. Now, we have seen the videos. The videos were sent to us. It all took place in the 3rd period of the game, if I remember correctly, John.
Yep.
Keep me right if I'm wrong. And do you want to take us through kind of what transpired, I suppose?
Without going into it, there's a whole lot of mess goes on between the 2 teams. Let's also point out the fact that you've got one of the Nottingham Lions players as well. Took a 5 for fighting, 5 plus game misconduct for resisting official as well. So there was no suspension. It was the penalties on the night were called on that one. This is a Blackburn Hawks problem specifically. Now, I've skipped through the video a couple of times and looked at bits and pieces that have gone on. Essentially, the Hawks just lost complete control. The players on the ice, the benches, players lost complete control, lost the run of themselves, essentially. Also, I mean, it goes without saying that it looks like the EIHA, I don't want to say they've lost the run of themselves, but, I mean, you've got 3 multiple year suspensions, 2 on players who are now ineligible to play hockey again in the NIHL for at least a year and a half. And a coach, Oliver Lomax, who is not allowed to have anything to do with ice hockey under, I assume, British ice hockey, under EIHA involvement or under British ice hockey involvement at all. Now, the one thing that I would say on this is that he is, as the coach, as the bench coach, he is responsible for the conduct of his players at any given time. Same way that any coach in any league can be thrown out of a game, can have fines put on them. I only have to look at the Preds. The Preds coach a couple of weeks ago was fined $25,000 for telling a ref that they did a terrible job after a game, after a loss, which is, people pointed out, was hilarious because the collective bargaining agreement for players means that their maximum fine is $5,500, but a coach can get a $25,000 fine, which was hilarious. But I digress again. This one, I'm not going to say that I agree with these bans. These are statement pieces from the EIHA disciplinary team. They have definitely got their message across. I would be surprised if we don't see at some point some kind of request for a hearing into these bans. I think the EIHA have made a very, very strong statement. Yes, when you look at the Reece Kearney-Whitter and the Callum Ruddock, the fighting an unwilling opponent, these are guys that are either prone on the ice or are just want absolutely nothing to do with this, and they go ahead and they continue fighting, they continue attacking. It's not hockey. It's not even fighting in hockey. It has absolutely no place in the game. The resistant official one, absolutely. That's one that absolutely should carry. We've looked at ones where players have resisted officials before. In fact, we're going to look at one in the second period as well, where maybe the reaction hasn't been as strong as it should have been. This one, absolutely. This is another one of these ones, kind of not in any way what happened similar to the Coventry one, but the IHA are taking the stance that this brought the game into disrepute, and they will not stand for it. And you can only applaud the conviction that they've gone at with these bans.
So my question is, this is my question. You know, we talk about, they said about how it brought the game into disrepute, unsportsmanlike conduct and everything else, and these were all given lengthy bans. Here's my question. They also looked at another game on the same weekend in the NIHL North 1, and that was the Billingham Stars versus the Whitley Warriors game, in which Dean Holland for the Whitley Warriors was also assessed an unsportsmanlike conduct, bringing the game into dispute. Now, what's interesting is that Dean Holland is currently serving a suspension from the sport, and the video footage that emerged showed that he was involved with an incident between periods where he was seen to be throwing a player from Billingham to the floor. Getting involved, obviously, with the game when he shouldn't be doing so. They have said that there's no excuse for a player who's suspended to become involved with any incident from the game. Therefore, he's been suspended for a further 4 games. So what is the difference between him getting involved, being suspended already, bringing the game into dispute, and getting unwillingly getting involved, or with potentially an unwilling combatant, but also getting involved with the game in an incident within that game and period when he's already suspended? My question is, why wasn't that looked at from a point of view of a lengthier suspension? Again, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't as extreme as the others, but.
Did you say
I've seen
between periods?
Yeah, he was in between period break.
So this was an off ice incident, and I think this is why. So the players. This is after the whistle has gone between periods, and I've seen, and I sent the footage of this one to you guys. I think and kind of shout out to the guys at 4,000 and counting, because they threw up a video that they'd been sent onto their social media and showed this. And there is a back and forth going on. I agree with you, Marty, that this one should have been looked at more, but I'm surprised that there aren't more suspensions, because there are players who are actively involved in the game who are involved in an altercation off the ice. That, to me, I imagine that with the EIHA's penalty point system, there should at least have been penalty points awarded here. What they seem to have taken exception to is the fact that this player who is serving a current suspension, who was at rinkside in a tracksuit, then threw an opposing player, threw a Billingham Stars player to the floor. And actually, when you say he threw him to the floor, he threw him over the equipment bench or the little tool trolley that I'm assuming their equipment manager had with them, and bundled him over it. It's a bit much. It wasn't okay. He's got no. Dean Holland has no way of excusing that he was trying to get in between players and stop an altercation. It's absolutely not what he did. He got stuck in like he was geared up for the game and like he was at centre ice with someone. So I can totally stand by that one. But yes, it hasn't been taken in the same way that the stuff between the Nottingham Lions and the Blackburn Hawks have. Now, again, we're slightly out of our wheelhouse with this one. Let's be totally honest. When it comes to the EIHA and the disciplinary side of the EIHA, what I would say is go and have a listen to Banners on the Wall, because he's involved with that league a hell of a lot more than we are, knows a hell of a lot more about it than we do, and probably knows a hell of a lot more about hockey in general than we do. And you will get
we've never claimed to know anything.
Well, exactly. But you'll probably get a much more balanced view of these incidents from him.
Good point. No, that's a fair point. Guys, I'm going to leave it there for the penalty box segment, and if it's okay with you, we'll get stuck into our period 2 of hockey.
Hello and welcome to Period 2 of Hockey. This is where we'll not talk about Evander Kane because I can't be bothered, and we'll talk about actual ice hockey stories. Well, I do have one story for me.
Hold on. Is he still playing? Has he been banned yet?
We covered this. Let's just move on.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. he scored a goal against the Wild. We'll talk about international hockey from anywhere in the world other than the UK. I think for this one we'll probably go to the Olympics to start, the elephant in the room. I will send this over to Marty because he put the story in, but it is definitely a bit of an upset.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the first one, which was the first gold medal game that was decided within ice hockey within the Olympics this year, and that was the women's game, the women's ice hockey.
Must have been a fantastic... I didn't watch this, but it must have been a fantastic game between Canada and America, surely?
It was. No, it was a great game. It was a tight game, very tight. It ended up with a 3-2 scoreline. It was...
Nice.
I mean... Yeah, I mean Canada obviously took the win, making the women's team obviously then taking championship from this year, or this Olympic round. It was great. Like I watched it the next day. I didn't watch it during the night. Do you know what? I think this has been the difficulty, and I think we talked about this, was that I wasn't as invested with the Olympic game this year and the ice hockey this year in the Olympics, and I think my main reason for it was timings and trying to find the games. It was hard this year. Whenever I in the middle point, whenever I wasn't very well with COVID and stuff, and I just couldn't sleep during the night, I had the Olympics on in the background and stuff. But see, even trying to get, it was just, trying to find like Olympic ice hockey, like it was barely hard. It was you couldn't. BBC weren't really covering it, even on their buttons. There was nothing.
Unless you dug through the iPlayer, it was really difficult to find, and I think that's because Premier Sports and
Premier
I think the
One
likes
is
of BT and Eurosports were
Eurosport
covering a
had
lot of it.
Yeah, and you obviously have to have a subscription and stuff, so it was really hard to watch parts of it this year, which was really disappointing.
We're all clearly far too cheap to have those subscriptions.
I don't watch enough sport. And again, I suppose that, so it was hard, but I did see the obviously the highlights that the BBC put up of the game the next day. They played most of the game the next day, but well fought game. And Canada took gold. Women's Canada took gold. Looking over at the men's section.
Now again, this must have been a fantastic final between the US and Canada, surely.
No. Final came down. This year's final came down to Finland versus the Olympic athletes of Russia. Now we, as we recording this, we obviously know what is happening in the world. The Ukraine has currently came under attack by the Russian army. The Russians have moved in over the last 24 hours, and a full-scale invasion, shall we say, has started to take place. We obviously hear, not that no one's gonna ever hear this, but we don't condone anything that's going on there. We stand with Ukraine and everything that's happening in the world, and it's unbelievable. But obviously we want to highlight the fact that obviously that final game between
technically it wasn't Russia, so it's fine.
Yeah, Russian Olympic Committee team, or whatever they're called. ROC, isn't that what they're named as? They're shortened down.
ROC.
Yeah, Finland beat ROC to win their first ever Olympic gold medal in ice hockey. We talked about Finland is one of those teams, those Scandinavian teams. Dave, I remember chatting, I think maybe in one of the previous podcasts, and one of the about 4 years ago now, obviously with the last Olympic Games, we talk about those Scandinavian teams, Finland's, the Swedens. We talk about all those different ones up around that area. I mean, this is Finland coming to the final and winning their first ever Olympic gold against ROC was a surprise, shall we say. A bit of controversy that did happen. I don't know if anybody's seen this with the final, was the ROC goalie who refused to wear the silver medal around his neck, and he was the only player on the ice not to be wearing his medal. I think the rules normally in Olympic sport is that obviously because of COVID, they can't be presented with them and put over their necks. Like
they had to take them and put them on themselves.
They had to take them and put them on themselves. But the thing is, at the end of the game, is each athlete within the Olympics should be wearing the medal that they've won, while the national anthem is being played of the winning, winning nation. Obviously, this didn't happen, and the ROC goalie did come under a bit of fire. He did come out and say afterwards that he will wear his Olympic medal with pride. He was just really frustrated on the day because he doesn't like coming second, and that's why he wasn't wearing the medal. But I don't think that's a good enough excuse. But that's it. So the Olympics are over for another 4 years. Hopefully, the next time around, hopefully things will have changed again, so that obviously we were leading towards an NHL players being involved this year, and obviously it didn't happen with the different things that happened with COVID and everything else. And we obviously seen the different things that did happen in terms of the women's game. That one of the last games, or one of the last episodes I was on with you guys, we were talking about the women's masks and stuff, and we were talking about how that was all a big drama as well. But that's it for this year. That's the Olympics finishing, and Finland took the men's Olympic gold.
Awesome. Finland's always been my team that should go the distance, because when you look at their rosters through the years, they're always stacked, always have fantastic netminders and really good forwards and things. Even this year they had a lot of former NHL players on the team, so congratulations to Finland. I think it's well deserved. About time they got the gold. And then we will move over. We see will I make John talk about the Stadium Series, or do you want to talk about it, Marty?
I'm happy with either. I'm happy to talk about it if you want, but I know John will take over anyway.
You talk
ahead,
about
John.
the Stadium Series, and then I'll take over, because we all know what I want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about, obviously, this coming weekend we have the NHL Stadium Series taking place in Nashville, and it's going to be an all celebration of not just ice hockey, but also a celebration of music within Nashville itself. The rink, if you haven't seen it, I'll try and find the link for it. But we had Dave, you sent through a time lapse of the rink coming together. Now, if you haven't seen it, there's a concept art that was a rendering that was put out by the NHL of what the Nissan Stadium was going to look like during the NHL Stadium Series. And I tell you what, that time lapse and what it looks like right now looks exactly like the actual rendering. Now, obviously, minus the crowds that are there, because I'm sure they'll have it. But it looks stunning. I mean, it looks phenomenal. You obviously have the ice rink center stage in the middle, but on either side of the rink, both left and right side, you can see a small stage area that's going to be obviously performers and bands are going to be on performing throughout the time. And I love the little Nashville with the two microphone head jacks coming out the sides. I think the whole thing looks amazing, and I think it's going to be definitely a spectacle to see it this coming weekend when we do see that as part of the game. John, from a Nashville game point of view, in terms of what's your feelings coming up to this weekend?
Love an outdoor game. Even if I'm not a massive fan of the Stadium Series jersey, it looks like someone. I don't know what it is about special jerseys right now that are coming out. There are so few nice ones. The last one that I really liked was the Nashville Predators Winter Classic jersey, which was really nice. Alluded to the music history of Nashville, was really, really nice. This time it's just the Smashville or whatever. It just, I like the whole Smashville thing that they do. It's part of their branding. It's part of their presence, their media presence, and all the rest of it. It's great. It's a terrible jersey. It's horrendous. But the stadium, the Titans home stadium, Nissan Stadium, looks absolutely fantastic, and I feel like the way that stadium's set up, the sort of the end zones are like only short little single story seating areas, kind of like the Aviva in Dublin, where you've got one side is quite short. And then you've got the big 3-tier sections on either side along the long side of the field. It looks absolutely fantastic. And like you say, when you throw in fans into that arena, that could be epic looking, especially with the Nashville skyline in the background. Imagine fireworks going. It'll be in darkness as well. Should be absolutely brilliant. And hopefully the temperature plays ball and they don't end up with a melty ice situation. And well, from other outdoor games that we've seen, hopefully the players won't be absolutely freezing to death and having to have soup in their water bottles instead of like bottles of Bovril behind the bench just to keep them warm.
Well, realistically, it's Tennessee. There should be whiskey in, and they should having a bit of whiskey to warm up the cockles. Dave, before I pass it back to you,
warm your what?
the last thing I'll say, Dave, before you move on, is just that obviously, if you're an ice hockey fan and also a country music fan, then definitely this weekend is for you, because I think they've announced 12 different country music artists as well as part of this weekend, as part of that, and a house band as well. So definitely a celebration of all things Nashville anyway.
One thing that
Any idea how we can watch it?
Well, if you're in the UK, it will be on Premier Sport.
Very good.
There's one thing Nashville know how to do is definitely throw a party. So it looks like even if the results don't go their way, it looks like it's going to be one hell of a night for all them.
Listen, we've got plenty of reasons to party in Nashville this weekend. Let me tell you. Tonight is the start of the party, and it's just going to roll on right through to that game. Because tonight we play the Dallas Stars. That in itself is not particularly special, although I hope we win tonight because it's a special night. Because number 35, the first jersey retirement in Nashville history, is going up to the rafters. And
Not
Pekka
surprised
Rooney,
it's a banner, look,
we love everyone. Look, we own it at this point. We absolutely own it at this point. We love a banner, but we're putting a proper one up this time.
So my question is, you're obviously raising a jersey, but is there a banner going up with the jersey to say first jersey going up?
There should be. There absolutely should be, yeah. We raised a jersey. First time Nashville retired a number, absolutely. So yeah, number 35 going to hit the rafters tonight. There's about an hour-long ceremony before face-off tonight for Pekka's number 35 to be lifted up into the roof of the Bridgestone Stadium. Look, let's face it, he's the top goal scorer netminder in franchise history. Scored a goal a few seasons. I think it was his last season before he left, and I think it's still only just because this week there was nearly another goalie goal. I can't remember who it was. Was it the Rangers goalie? Very, very nearly scored a goal, but I can't remember precisely. I might have got that wrong. But the last goalie goal we saw was Pekka Rooney, and yeah, just for that, raise number 35.
Brilliant.
I'll be sleeping in my Preds jersey tonight because it is a Rooney jersey.
Brilliant. Looks like it's going to be a party then in Nashville. Okay, cool. We'll move on then to the last main story for this period. I think this one is yours, John.
Yep. So this is the news that Corey Nielsen, remember that guy that we used to talk about a lot when he was in Nottingham? Remember when he went to the DEL and had a really, really good job and then lost it? Well, he's got another job in the Del 2. He'll be taking over the reins at EC Castle Huskies in the Del 2. They have split from their current or former now head coach Tim Kaler, and starting immediately, the 50-year-old Canadian. Can you imagine that he is 50 now? Corey Nielsen is 50 years old. And he's taken the reins with the Huskies now. I thought it was just worth throwing out there.
Is he not 45?
Really? Oh no, sorry, he is 45. Sorry, the old coach is. Sure, he looks 50. He's had a tight run of it. He was a Panthers coach for a long time. That'll age anyone. 45 and looks 50. But yeah, I think I joke. Corey definitely deserved his first shot at the Dell when he was there. I think things just didn't work out, and I think the team for them made the right call to part ways with him at that point. I think it was the right thing for him too, and all you can hope is that the team get behind him and he can kind of rally that team. I know less about the Del 2 than I know about the NIHL, so I'm not going to even try and pass comment on the team. But guys, what's your thought on Corey getting another? I mean, let's face it, it's a top level coaching job.
It's
that's what we think about that.
Yeah, no, it's Corey definitely deserves it. He's a phenomenal coach. He's a bit of a strange sort of setup guy when you see, because obviously when he was in Nottingham for a big chunk of it, he was still playing. But yeah, I think, am I right in saying he won the Del 2 Coach of the Year a few years back? Yep. So you can tell he's top flight, and wish him all the luck. Okay, if we have nothing else, we'll do the penalty box. Am I right? We're going to talk about this. Is it worth talking about?
Well, no, I was going to say, Dave, let's just move it into the period rather than a period penalty box.
Because it didn't end up being a penalty, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. This is a story. Aaron, I think you sent the story in the group during the week. I think, was it? Pretty sure it was you. Yeah,
I think I did.
It was someone.
This is the story that Nathan McKinnon was potential, shall we say, at one point this week was going to be facing an automatic 20-game suspension. McKinnon, during the game, the Bruins versus Avalanche game, appeared that the Avalanche forward intentionally slashed a linesman after a face-off, which obviously is against NHL rules, and it's an automatic 20-game suspension. However, subsequent, I suppose, a statement came out from the NHL hockey operations just shortly after the incident between the game, which they stated that the safety of on-ice officials is and always has been of paramount importance to everyone. In this regard, we have always exercised a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to any form of abuse of our officials. Last night, one of our officials was struck by a player with his stick immediately after a face-off. We immediately investigated the incident, and having conferred with the on-ice officiating crew and NHL Officials Association, it has been determined that the player's intention was not to strike the official, but rather to initiate contact with the opposing player. Given this conclusion, it has been determined that no further discipline is necessary. This decision should in no way be seen as diminishing of a steadfast conviction of protection of our officials. Again, I suppose it is, a good argument, guys, and that's why obviously we're not putting it in the penalty box because there was no penalty from this. It's another period where we're looking at referees getting, I suppose, a hard time. I mean, is it what it says it is? Do you think it is what it says it is? Did it look like it was going for the ref? Does it? Well then, John, great.
John, do you have thoughts?
I have something
to say, John.
I have something to say on this.
You have an opinion?
Nathan McKinnon is a money spinner for this league, and striking an official in that form is a lengthy ban. Like, he could be sitting out the rest of the season if the Avs don't make the postseason. What I will say is this is double standards from the league, because previously, a couple of years ago, former Senator Anton Vermette was given 10 games for something so similar. What the NHL are trying to say, and the camera angles of the McKinnon incident, they are saying that he was putting his stick down to the ice in the manner in which he did because he expected the puck to come and he was trying to play the puck or play the player. There's no player around him. The puck is going the other direction. He clearly
Is that what they're saying?
slashes.
I thought they were. I thought he was trying to slash.
Sorry, the insinuation is that he is trying to make contact with another player through what they've said. It's nonsense. There is no one but the linesman around him. It is utter nonsense.
I don't know, John.
The video of the Anton Vermette one is exactly the same, and for some reason he got 10 games. It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. And if it happens,
I actually don't agree.
No, all of the chat is, and the stuff that I do agree with. If Nazem Kadri or Brad Marchand do that, they're sitting out the rest of the season. Easy. But it's Nathan McKinnon.
Aaron, what's your thoughts?
So I seen the one that you were talking about with the 10-game ban, and that was clearly a hit to the ref. I think there is an argument here that McKinnon is trying to hit. I can't even see the Bruins player. I think there is it's a far enough stretch that he's trying to whack the back of his leg.
I just don't see it.
You're saying that there's no one there about. There is a Bruins player there, and he's in the line of the.
There's a Bruins player. There's a player at 12 o'clock. Okay, from him, he is and they are probably just outside a stick distance. He's slashing at 10 o'clock. He's not even attempting to go towards the player. He's not even looking at the other player. He's looking at the linesman.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It does look. I agree with you in some ways, John. It does look when you watch it, and when you do watch it and you watch the replay, as the Bruins player skates off, it does look like he is looking toward right at the linesman who just dropped the puck. It does.
He's looking at the linesman.
Okay.
He has the stick in two hands. It's a two-handed slash at the linesman. He's completely got away with it, and the league have got a double standard for their superstars.
It looks like it does at one moment. It does look like McKinnon puts his hand up to basically say, "Are you not looking? Did you not see what just happened there?" It does look like he's going, "Hey, what's going on?" And then he gets a bit frustrated and looks like he goes through. It does. I agree with you. It did look like that. That's why I think it looked like it was a definite slashing call of an official.
Yeah.
But obviously they look at it a different way. I would disagree with you, John, in that I think that second video that showed that incident with the 10-game ban, I don't think it looks as sinister. I don't know. I don't think it. It's hard to tell. I definitely think it's questionable. I kind of see where you're coming from. It's questionable, but I definitely see that what you're saying about that. It looks like he is definitely going for the linesman in that one, and that's my opinion too. It does look like it.
There's another way to look at it, which is one thing that's one of the first comments on the Twitter post, and it's. Oh, I was going to crash my car into this guy, but I crashed into you. He still did it.
That's a fair point.
Exactly. And this is connected to all of that. Why isn't there even a hearing? Why doesn't McKinnon have a hearing about this? Why don't the NHL ask him, what were you doing there? There doesn't seem to be any of that. The NHL, the next morning, have just made a decision. McKinnon's clearly not trying to hurt our official.
Yeah, I think
Totally
personally, because there's not the intent, I do think something should have served. I don't think the automatic 20. It's a bit excessive for what happened.
That's the thing.
But
They have the power. He can set the automatic 20, but obviously with the previous one that we've seen as well with Vermette, they brought that down to 10.
And they can probably bring it down further again.
They've got every right to do that. He shouldn't be getting away with that, especially not now where we're seeing, and we're going to talk about it, we're seeing so many in so many different leagues. We've talked about abusive officials already. We've talked about a message that went out from the British leagues about not abusing officials at any portion of the game. Then you've got someone with the paycheck of Nathan McKinnon who seems to be able to get away with whatever he wants to do, including what I class as a physical assault on a linesman.
Yeah. I can say it's always going to be it.
Sorry, I see what you mean about the way he's looking. I was looking at the stick, and I was like, maybe he's just trying to hit the back of the legs. But I kind of see what you're saying about the where he's looking.
It's dirty and disgusting. And you know what? If he ever does it again throughout the rest of his career, the NHL have a question to answer.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
Well, with that, I think that is us done for period 2, if I'm right in saying.
Yep.
Awesome. We'll move on to period 3.
Welcome to period 3. This is our general Knocky News. Listen to that chorus. Knocky News is where we talk about anything and everything else in the world of hockey that we don't think fits neatly into periods 1 or period 2. Guys, I'm going to go straight into it, but we've just come off the discussion about Nathan McKinnon and abusive officials. We've talked about it in the previous 2 periods. We're going to talk about it in this period as well. Marty, you found a piece, and we've discussed this one as well in our group chat as well. This is a junior player who clearly knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, this story is doing the rounds. I mean, I was, when I was looking at this story came up first off, I seen on Twitter, but then when I was looking more information on it, I mean, it's hitting all of the media channels, it's hitting all of the news channels and news outlets. I mean, I was looking everywhere. I think it was, UK news outlets as well were picking up on this one. This is another incident with a referee. In which a player has basically got involved and it got heated. Obviously, again, it's another assault of an official. This time, it is an official assault on an official. Official assault on yeah. On Sunday, Paul Halloran of the ESPHL's South Shore Kings struck a referee after the player wasn't happy about a penalty call in the first period of the game against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights. Scranton. Amazing. Exactly. If you're not an Office fan, then that is completely went over your head. In the footage of the incident, Halloran can be seen shoving the ref after the two collided in front of the King's bench. The ref immediately blew his whistle and animatedly pointed to the penalty box. As he's being escorted to the penalty box by the linesman, Halloran then punched the referee, a sucker punch to the face, knocking him down to the ground. The referee did get up quite quickly, did seem uninjured, but the commissioner for the USPHL has issued a statement shortly after the incident condemning the player's actions and has issued the 20-year-old Halloran a lifetime ban from ice hockey. He stated in his statement that the action taken today by a USPHL player is completely unacceptable in this league. The USPHL has zero tolerance for any player striking an official at any time. The player in question's actions have led to a lifetime ban. Halloran's actions could also have consequences beyond the rink, as the situation is being investigated by the local authorities. Again, this is it's interesting because it's going to come back to something that John, you had mentioned earlier in period 1 actually, and this is something actually that this piece also talks about and actually is very much saying exactly what you're kind of saying. They're looking at the moment they're having a bit of a difficulty at the moment in the US around youth hockey, especially around a ref shortage in the US around sports and around hockey in the United States, in that they're finding that a lot of trying to entice in younger men and women to become referees is proving really difficult, and they can't replace older refs because people aren't wanting to endure the endless abuse that they're currently getting. I mean, we have seen. We talked about it, and we talked about stories on our podcast in previous episodes, going right back for years now. We've seen stories of parents giving abuse to referees in these underage games. We've seen, coaches shouting abuse at the referees. I mean, it is becoming a bit of a major issue and a major concern. And you did say it earlier on, and you got it right. I mean, is there going to be a concern at the moment where we're going to see a ref shortage across the different major sports? Because
listen, you say it there. You say it across the major sports. It's not just a hockey problem. It's a youth development line sporting problem. I think there's always been an element of abuse, but we've seen so many times, especially in North America and in some of the European leagues, parents even getting like physical with officials and like trying to call them out to car parks afterwards and all the rest of it. And now you're getting to the point that even youth players, you have to question the coaching and so the route that some of these players are taken through, and the personalities that are bringing them up through, that they don't have a greater respect for officials. Like I make no bones about it. Like I've played rugby when I was at school. One of the first things that you're taught when you're playing rugby is that referee, when you step on the field, that word is law, and you are taught it's yes sir, no sir. Like if you're on there, it is politeness gets you a long way with a referee. This is the opposite end. This is where players are not being taught the same values there's no respect. If they can't respect the officials, they're not going to respect their teammates or the opposition players or anyone else away from the rink either. It's endemic with youth sports, and it needs to be fixed. I mean, Dave, Aaron, you guys have kids who could at some point end up in youth sporting. Like Dave, like as a parent, like you've got the oldest kid out of all of us. Like, what position would you be in on the ice and taking a swing at the ref yourself?
No, because they would probably knock me on my arse. But like Sander started now to do after school sports and stuff. So he does football and he did tennis, and he does treat the coaches basically like he would his teacher. That they're in charge, and obviously we know Sander has additional needs, but he does see them as just an authority figure, and I just try to reinforce that. And I think that that's especially in youth, the ref is an extension of your coach, because when you're playing, if you make a bad call and you end up getting called for a penalty, that's something your coach will work on with you. That'll be something they'll try and take away from your game and improve on. No one improves without making mistakes. Like if you get on the ice and never get called for a penalty, there's probably something wrong with you. Yeah, you're going to be the next, great one or something daft. Because you have to be. The only way players learn is by making those mistakes. And if you're playing and competing, it happens. No one's squeaky clean when it comes to that. And as I said, it's the only way to learn, and you have to build relationships with these refs because they're going to be about. They're not going to be, you're not going to just see them once. You're going to probably see them quite a lot through your career. May that be as you go up through the junior system, or if it's in the minors. There's not an awful lot of referees to make bad reputations with them. So yeah, be kind to your referee, tip them well.
Yep, absolutely.
I think you're right though, John, that there needs to be more visibility for coaches for stress and things like that. Is there more to it than that? Is there more to it, like these kids growing up and punching someone like that? That's not normal, I don't think. Look,
we're in a time
there. There's signs of mental health issue. I'm not saying.
Look, we're in a time where physicality is going out of hockey, and the storied tradition of physicality is going out of hockey. This is not the kind of physicality that we want to see replacing it.
No, this is a young man. This is just a young man who couldn't control his temper, unfortunately.
But is there something on the like this kid's got a lifetime ban there? Is there something that should have been said that it should have been put back onto the coaches to?
Well, I think my one thing would be is that if this kid was 15, 16, I would say yes, potentially. He's 20 years old. He's a grown man.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I know that the rules are slightly different in America, that you're not really seen as being like a full adult until 21 in certain states and all the rest of it. But I mean, whatever, 20 years old, that's too old to be making that excuse. I think.
Yeah.
By 20, you need to know better about who you can and can't punch in the face.
The answer is nobody.
Exactly. Yeah. There it is. Sorry, you're up there. You're up there. I pointed the wrong way to start with. Anyway. We're going to leave
You can
that one
tell
there, guys.
Dave's had this conversation before.
Absolutely.
You don't have to punch anyone.
We're going to leave that one there, guys. We're going to round off period 3 a little bit different, and we're going to go back to the creature of utter nightmares that is Gritty. But I do gather, Aaron, that this is actually a quite a nice story.
Yeah. So, yes.
Nice, and not so nice.
Night and not so nice. So, as well as ice hockey, we're all massive, big comic book fans. And just in December or November time, the legendary comic artist George Perez unfortunately made the announcement that he has stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Now, if you're not aware, George Perez is, as I say, a legend in the comic book world. One that most people will be aware of is the Marvel and the Infinity Gauntlet with Thanos, and you've seen all the movies. And one of the great stories that came out this week, or one of the great things, is the Philadelphia Flyers did pay their respects and homage to George Perez by creating this really cool comic book inspired cover for Gritty and giving him the Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know if any of you have seen it. Have you?
Yep. Yeah, this is part of the Philadelphia Flyers hold a comic book game every year.
So it's Marvel Night. They're hosting
Night.
Marvel Night.
And is this the free poster? Is that what I read?
Yep.
It's the free poster.
So this is the free poster that everyone in the rink will get that night.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I want that poster. And this is what I remember earlier when I was like, we're not doing so well, but things might change. If Gritty gets the Infinity Gauntlet, I'm telling you, we are going to be number 1.
I wouldn't like to think what Gritty would think of when he's clicking those things. I wonder what he would. What would he want? That's a good question.
Let's not even.
World
go
of
down
Gritty.
that.
What would the
Let's
world
not.
by Gritty be look like?
I don't want to think about that. But get on there and take a look at it. It's a really good poster.
No, it's a brilliant reimagining of the poster, and we'll throw the link up on our website. You can go and have a look at it, and obviously our thoughts are with George Perez as well, battling cancer as well, and we wish him all the best with that. Guys, with that rounds off period 3, and we move on to the star segment. Star segment then is where we each, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't this season, we highlight a particular player or team or something in particular that we think is especially worthy of special recognition. Admittedly, the last couple of podcasts, we've either not done it, or we just did a direct award last time. Like any good government contract, you just give it to your friends, and we kept it here in Belfast with JJ Pickenich. Guys, this time around, I can see that there are 2 nominations this time around. One from myself and one from Aaron. I'll go with mine first. And Dave, Marty, I'll give you guys thinking time whether or not you do want to put something forward or not. But I'll come to you in a second. I'm going to go with mine first. It's going to be absolutely no surprise to anyone because I've already spoken about him this podcast, and it's probably going to be my last opportunity to put him in as the star nominee, and it's going to be Pekka Rooney, former Nashville Predators netminder, number 35, getting his number raised to the rafters tonight, and there's no better time to put him forward for my star nomination, and that's who I am going with. Aaron, I'm going to come to you for yours. You kept it a bit more local.
Are you telling us really that you're going for Pekka Rooney because he's done just about okay with his career, and just to finish off his career, you wanted to highlight it by giving him a Door 14 star?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the one thing.
The
It's the one thing he hasn't won. It's the one thing in hockey he hasn't won. Well, that and an Olympic gold medal, but he never got a chance.
You never know. Mine's a bit more local, and I think, based on yesterday's results, you couldn't look past it, to be honest with you, and that is our good old Jackson Whistle. After last night's performance and how he performed was just amazing, I thought. There was one that went through. But there was a few little mistakes, and I think in our own defensive line, and for the most part, and that it wasn't just a one-time thing. I think there was a few times our defensive line kind of skipped a beat, and Whistle was right there to patch it up, no problem.
You're 100% right. The outlet passes in our zone were pretty dire sometimes by our defense, and Jackson absolutely pulled them out of a hole to take that 2-1 result in the end. So absolutely, and I know that Dave will back me up on this from our Scottish weekend after Besco had his rock and roll moment, decided to go over himself as soon as he stepped in, taking the. Well, if you like, I don't think he took the shutout officially in Dundee on the second night. I think officially it goes to Besco because he was named as the starting netminder, and it was a forced change. But then the shootout win in Fife, he was outstanding and stood on his head on the shootout. So yeah, I can totally go for Jackson Whistle as well.
Jax was fantastic on those games, and when he came on, there was this weird sensation in Dundee where they were like, the backup's coming on, and then there was a sudden realization that it was Jackson and not Dicko. They were like, because even the Dundee play style changed up a bit, and they were taking more shots and stuff, and all that led to was them opening up at the back. It was a bit crazy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, totally. Yeah, brilliant that minor.
Dave, I'll stick with you. Have you got a nomination, or are you skipping this week?
No, I don't have anything. There's a load of things I could put down, but there's not one thing that I'd want to call out at this stage. There was loads of great stuff that happened when we were in Scotland. There was loads of stuff when we got back, and over the last few games, there's been so many brilliant individual performances, especially in the Giants, that it's difficult to pick out one. And I don't want to be that chancy guy just to stick down the Giants, because that's how you win.
Well, I thought if you were going to pull one from the away trip, and I was going to tell you weren't allowed to, is the DJ in Dundee because of how much crack we were having with him. But
he was belter.
No, he was good crack.
I was
gutted
he wasn't
forward.
I was gutted he wasn't there the second night.
I think by the end of the game he was the drunkest man in the arena. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
At least he didn't dress up as a ref.
Marty, I'm going to come to you. There's nothing sitting there just now. Are you taking the week off?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Dave. I think there's a lot of notable mentions that could be put out there, especially from a Giants point of view, just from the past weekend and also the game. Obviously history. I could call out the fact that we've had a phenomenal run of form from Pickenich again. We've had Cooper, we've had Conway, there's Goodwin.
Goody.
Sorry, Goody's been phenomenal. I mean, so many names we could call out, but I think it would be silly to put any of those names down against our suggestion of Jackson Whistle, because I think if anything, Jackson has stepped up into quite a good. He's performed amazingly this last couple of games that he's been on for, and that can't be denied. So I think you'd be foolish to go up against Jackson Whistle.
Okay, fair play. Then that's us. We have 2 nominations this time around. The nominations are from me, Pekka Rooney, and from Aaron, Jackson Whistle. It's the Battle of the Netminders. Marty, there's no overtime.
Nope, no overtime segment this week. Nothing else to add in. All the news stories and everything we wanted to cover, we've covered in periods 1, 2, and 3. And I don't think we've had anything in this week from our Twitter. Nope, nothing. So,
Mark, what are you playing at?
What? That's fine. That's okay. That just leaves one section left, and that is
It's back.
It's back.
It's back.
Hopefully, but that leaves us with one section left of this period of this podcast, and that is our ABCs of hockey.
Oh, John's asleep there.
Oh, geez, sorry. Caught me napping there. That music's just so relaxing.
Yeah, so ABCs of Hockey has been a miss for the last couple of podcasts, but then this episode really needed to have the letter R in here, so it did. And that's where we are. Can anyone guess what the letter R stands for?
Based on this, I think it's an easy one.
It's kind of on point, actually.
It's got to be Rinny.
It's Rinny, exactly. It's exactly him. No. Anyone else? Referees, indeed.
Away referee.
Referee.
The people that we love, the love we love so much. Now, you know what? One time that I did talk to you about, I was like, I didn't really know how to cover this particular. There's so many different things you could say about refs, but I decided that I am going to change it up and give you guys a challenge. Okay, I'm going to describe 3 referee signals, and you have to tell me what
you're going to describe, or you're going to do them.
No, I'm going to describe.
You have to do them. You have to do the Wes Macaulay.
This is a podcast.
You have to do them.
You have to do the Wes Macaulay impression of them as well, not just the.
These are all good at this amazing podcast first approach. So, if you get whoever gets it right first will get a point. So we'll either be all equal and all squared with a 1 point each, or someone will be a winner, and the winner will get a thumbs up.
Yay!
I'm invested here. I'm invested. I'm leaning forward. I'm invested now. Come on.
Right. So we're gonna have 3 of them. The first one is striking the clenched fist of one hand into the open palm of the opposite hand in front of the chest.
Boarding.
Oh, Dave. 1 point to Dave. 1 point to Dave. I got these descriptions online. They're amazing. Sorry. A forward and backward motion of the arms with both fists clenched.
Rock the boat.
Cross check.
What did you say, John?
Rock the boat. I'm not wrong.
He's not. You know what? I really want to give John a point because he's not wrong. But yeah, I think Dave's going to be the runaway winner here. That was
away referee. Away.
Let's give you an easy.
Right, Marty. It's all to play for here. We're playing for last place here.
You're playing for last place. It's almost like you're the Flyers versus
another rubbish team.
Another version of the Flyers.
Another version of the Flyers. The Flyers UK versus the not even. A single point directed at the goal in which the puck. There we go. Puck allegedly entered. Sorry,
Too quick.
Sorry, Marty, you're officially a Flyer.
That's alright. Oh, God.
There is loads of there, actually. Loads of referees. That might actually replace the ABCs of hockey. Let's learn about the referee symbols or signs.
Gotta give it to you. I heard that's probably my favourite ABCs of hockey ever.
Very good.
I always think it's worth before we move on, just last bit on that is like I always think it's worth if you for fans like starting out whenever we first started with the Giants. One of the Giants used to hand out they used to hand out like a flyer, and it used to also then be in the programs as well, where they had like a little cartoon version of Finn McCool doing the different hand signals and doing the different to teach people the different calls that were going to be done by the refs. And I thought it was brilliant.
But don't they now when the penalties are called? Don't they have Finn on the screen now? And he does this. He'll do like the slashing symbol.
It's just the name now.
Just the name of it.
Really? Does it not do that anymore? The season they did that. The season they did that was brilliant.
Yeah, there was time where they did that, but no, it's just the name comes up whenever there's a penalty called. The name, I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it'd be good to go back to that because it's always good to learn.
They used to have things like a wee diagram of the rink and all, and do the offside and everything, and what the icing was and stuff. Yeah, there has to be still quite a lot of new people coming to games every week, like so.
Worth it.
And listen, if you want to look at, I know we joked a minute ago, but if you ever want to look at the best referee who has ever set foot on the ice as far as ice hockey is concerned, go onto YouTube right after you finish watching our episode here. There's only a couple of minutes left. Just stick with us and put in that search bar up there Wes Macaulay. He is fantastic, and you'll have a great couple of minutes watching Wes on the ice.
Yeah. Guys, with that takes us to the end of this week's episode. It's been great being back and just getting caught up with you and having a bit of fun as usual. We do have some ice hockey this weekend, so I will see some of you maybe at the rink this weekend, maybe, potentially. John, you, Dave, maybe you, Aaron, maybe not. I don't know. Otherwise, we'll sign off for this week. We, as usual, you can check out our social media on all of our social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook for one specific.
Just for Campbell.
Yeah, just for Campbell at door 14. At door 14.
Hi, Campbell.
You can check out our previous episodes and the content that we talk about on the episodes, as well as the links for all of the news stories on our website at door14hockey.com. You can listen to us on all smart speakers and podcast providers out there. Just ask your smart speaker to play Door 14 Hockey Podcast. And also on YouTube, if you haven't, you can watch our smiley faces on YouTube. Sometimes we are eating in our videos. Sometimes we are... sometimes we're just sitting
doing referee symbols.
Sometimes we're doing referee symbols. So go check it out. And it's another way to listen to our show as well as watch it. With that, we'll sign off for this week. I'm Marty.
And Dave.
I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
Have a great week.